She comes to me in dreams, the other me, the one I left behind 60 years ago. My name is Catherine. I'm 84 years old, and almost every night I dream about the woman I was supposed to become. She's always young in these dreams, 23, 24, the age I was when everything changed. She's painting, always painting, in a small apartment with light pouring through tall windows, canvas after canvas, colors I've never been brave enough to use in waking life. She looks happy, completely, entirely happy. And then I wake up, and I'm 84 years old, in a house in Connecticut, with a life that is good, that has always been good, but not that life. Never that life. People say you shouldn't regret your choices, that every decision leads you to where you're supposed to be. I've heard that my whole life, and I've smiled and nodded. But in the quiet hours before dawn, when the dream fades and reality settles back in, I know the truth. I made a choice at 23 that closed a door I've been standing in front of ever since. Not because someone forced me, not because I had no options, but because I was afraid. And fear, it turns out, is the most expensive thing in the world. Part 2, minutes 3 through 6. I need to tell you who I was before the choice, before I understand the choice itself. I was born in 1940, Boston, Irish Catholic family, 7 children. My father worked at the docks. My mother kept everything together with a combination of prayer and stubbornness. We weren't poor, but we weren't comfortable either. Every dollar was counted. But somehow, my mother found money for paint. She'd noticed when I was about 5 years old that I was different. I drew on everything: walls, napkins, brown paper bags from the grocery store. I'd spend hours sketching the view from our window, the fire escape, the pigeons, the way afternoon light hit the brick of the building across the street. My mother saw something in it. She bought me a small set of watercolors for Christmas when I was 7. I remember opening the box, those 12 small tablets of color, the way they smelled, the way they looked like small, perfect jewels. I cried. My father thought I was strange. "What's wrong with the girl?" "Nothing's wrong," my mother said. "She's an artist." It was the first time I'd heard that word applied to me. Artist. It felt like a key fitting into a lock. Through school, art was the only place I made sense, the only place I felt completely myself, completely present, like the rest of the world went quiet, and there was just me and the canvas and the work. My teachers noticed. One of them, Mrs. Patterson, pulled me aside when I was 17, said I had real talent, said I should apply to art school. "There's a program in New York," she said, "the Art Students League. You could apply for a scholarship." I went home and told my mother. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Your father will need to agree." My father did not agree. "Artists don't eat," he said. "Artists don't pay rent. You'll go to secretarial school, learn something practical." I cried, argued, begged. But in our house, my father's word was final. So I went to secretarial school. But I never stopped painting. At 20, I got a job as a secretary at an architecture firm in Boston. The partners were 2 brothers, Richard and James Holloway. James was 32, unmarried, serious. He had the kind of focused intelligence that I found both attractive and intimidating. Within a year, he was courting me. I liked him. He was kind. He took my painting seriously in a way most men didn't. He'd come to my small apartment, look at my canvases, and ask questions. Real questions. Not polite, dismissive questions. "What were you thinking here?" he'd ask, pointing to a shadow or a color choice, and I'd tell him. And he'd listen. I thought, here is a man who sees me. By the time I was 22, we were engaged. And then I met someone. I don't talk about her. I've never talked about her. Not to my children, not to my friends, not even to my priest, in 60 years of confession. Her name was Diana. She came to the firm as a draftsman in 1962, one of the only women in the room, confident in a way that seemed impossible for that time, that place. We became friends quickly, the way women do when they're rare in a space together. There's an automatic kinship. We'd have lunch together, walk home the same direction sometimes. She painted too, seriously. She'd gone to the School of the Museum of Fine Arts, had gallery connections, knew people in the New York art world. She talked about art the way I felt about it, from the inside, like it wasn't a hobby or a talent, but a necessity, like breathing. I'd never met anyone who understood that before. She invited me to an opening at a small gallery in Cambridge. I went, and standing there surrounded by art and the people who made it, something cracked open inside me. Not the art, though the art was beautiful. Diana, standing beside me, explaining a painting with her hands moving expressively, eyes bright with genuine passion. I realized I was in love with her. It hit me like a physical thing, like stepping off a curb you didn't see. I loved Diana, and it terrified me. This was 1963. Boston. You understand what that means. There was no language for what I felt, no framework, nothing in my Catholic upbringing, nothing in my family, nothing in the world around me had prepared me for this. I was engaged to James, a good man, a kind man, and I was in love with Diana. I spent 3 months in silent agony, smiling at James across dinner tables, laughing at the right times, planning a wedding, while inside I was falling apart. Diana didn't know. I made sure she didn't know. I kept our friendship warm but careful. I made excuses to see her less, told myself it would fade, but it didn't fade. It deepened. And then, one afternoon in October 1963, Diana said something that changed everything. We were in the firm's small kitchen, making coffee. Everyone else was at lunch. She turned to me and said, very quietly, "Catherine, I need to tell you something." My heart stopped. "I'm leaving Boston. I'm moving to New York. I got offered a position at a firm there, and there's a gallery interested in my work." I felt two things simultaneously. Relief, because the temptation would be gone, and devastation, because she would be gone. "That's wonderful," I said. My voice was steady. I was proud of that. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, "Come with me." I stared at her. "I know you're engaged," she said quietly. "I know what I'm asking. But Catherine, you're too good to spend your life being a secretary. Your work is extraordinary. You could have a real career in New York with the right connections." She paused. "Come with me. Paint. Make the work you're supposed to make." She wasn't saying anything else. I understood that. She was being careful, giving me an out, framing it as career opportunity. But underneath the words, I heard something else. I heard, "Come with me. Choose yourself. Choose us. Choose the life you're supposed to have." I stood there in that kitchen for a very long time, and then I said no. I told James yes instead. We got married in June 1964. Diana moved to New York. We exchanged a few letters in the first year, formal, careful letters, about work and weather and nothing important. Then they stopped. I told myself it was better this way, cleaner. I built my life with James, had 3 children, made a home, made friends, made a life. And I was happy. I need to say that clearly. I was genuinely happy. James was a good husband, patient, loving. He supported my painting even as it became less and less frequent, even as the canvases gathered dust in the spare room. "You should paint more," he'd say sometimes. "I don't have time," I'd say. But that wasn't true. I had time. I just couldn't make myself go into that room, pick up the brush. Because every time I did, I thought of Diana, of New York, of the door I'd closed, and the painting felt like grief. So I stopped. James died in 2008. We'd been married 44 years. After he died, I had too much time, too much quiet. I started dreaming about the other me, the 23-year-old with the paint-stained hands and the life in New York. Every night, almost. She was always happy in the dreams, always whole. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and lie there in the dark, thinking about choices, about roads not taken, about Diana. I wondered what had happened to her, whether she was still painting, whether she was happy. In 2015, my granddaughter showed me how to search the internet properly. I typed in Diana's name, script, part 6, minutes 15 to 17, Diana Hartley. The search results came up immediately. She was a painter, an established, respected painter with work in galleries across the country. There were photographs, reviews, interviews. I clicked on an interview from 2012. She was 72 in the photograph, white-haired, elegant. Still with that quality of focused confidence, I remembered. The interviewer asked her about her life in New York, when she'd arrived, what it had been like. She talked about the early years, the struggle, the galleries, the relationships, and then the interviewer asked, "Was there ever a time you almost didn't do this? Almost took a different path?" Diana was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Yes, there was someone in Boston in 1963, someone whose talent was extraordinary, who I hoped might come to New York with me, make the work she was supposed to make." The interviewer said, "What happened?" Diana smiled, a small old smile. "She chose a different life," she said, "and I hope it was a good one. I've always hoped that." I sat at my computer for an hour after reading that, trying to understand what I felt. Grief, yes. For the path not taken, for the work not made, for the self I'd abandoned. But also something else, something quieter. She'd thought about me. All those years later, she'd thought about me. I wasn't the only one who had wondered. Script, part 7, minutes 17 to 20. I want to be careful about what I say here, about what I regret, because I don't regret James. I don't regret my children. I don't regret the life we built together. That life was real. That love was real. Those children are real and beautiful, and I am proud of them. What I regret is smaller than that, and bigger. I regret the painting I didn't do, the canvases that stayed blank, the colors I was too afraid to use. I regret choosing safety over uncertainty, over possibility. I was 23 years old and I was afraid of so many things. Afraid of disappointing my family, afraid of what people would say, afraid of failing, afraid of what I felt for Diana and what it would mean about me if I followed it. So I chose the safe thing, the expected thing, the thing that made sense on paper, and I got a good life. But not that life. Never that life. The woman in my dreams, the one with the paint-stained hands, she got that life, and I visit her every night. She never seems angry with me, the dream me, the other Catherine. She just paints, in her light-filled apartment, with her colors and her canvases. Sometimes she looks up and sees me watching, and she smiles, like she forgives me, like she understands why I left her behind. But the forgiveness in the dream doesn't make the waking any easier. because every morning I open my eyes and I'm 84 years old, and my hands shake too much for the fine detail work I used to love. And the canvases in the spare room have been blank for 30 years. And Diana is a celebrated painter whose work hangs in galleries I've never visited. And I am the woman who said no in a kitchen in Boston 60 years ago. And I've never stopped wondering who I would have been if I'd said yes. Script. Part 8. Minutes 2022. Ending. Last month I did something I've never done. I went into the spare room. I looked at the old canvases, dusty, some of them with half-finished work from 30 years ago. I looked at the paints, dried out, ruined. I went to the art supply store and bought new ones, came home, set up a canvas, and sat there for a long time, brush in hand. I thought about the 23-year-old in the dream, the light through the windows, the colors. I thought about my mother calling me an artist for the first time. I thought about Diana saying, "Come with me." And I thought about James saying, "You should paint more." And I put the brush to the canvas. My hands shook. The lines weren't clean. The colors weren't what I intended. It looked nothing like what the Catherine in my dreams would paint. But it was something. After 60 years of blank canvases, it was something. I don't know if I'm an artist anymore. Maybe I never was, not really. But I know I'm someone who needed to paint and chose not to for 60 years. And I know that for whatever time I have left, I'm not going to make that choice again. It's late. God knows it's late. But it's not over. The woman in my dreams is still painting. And maybe now, finally, I can paint alongside her. I'm 84 years old, and I still dream about the version of myself I left behind. But maybe, finally, I'm starting to find my way back to her. Soft fade. Gentle outro. If this story meant something to you, thank you for staying. It's never too late to find your way back to yourself, even at 84, even at the end.